Does it make you more or less excited to run a startup?
More.
More.
It's like always best time to do it is when there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. Things are being shaken up. That's like the perfect time. Don't be afraid of failure. I think a lot of people get stuck in the career mindset when you're in a big company. Like you have your eyes on the like role above you. Just let go.
These AI verticals that are tailored to a specific vertical, they will be better in the short term, so they will win the market first. Better models will come out, and these better models will require very few lines of code to make a product out of them. But they will be better because of the reasons that we talked about earlier. And then the question is, will they retain the market share that they got from the initial lead? We're trying to have banter here before the recording, but like, it's not the same. It's not the same in English. Anyway, great to have you here, Axel, on the first episode of the pod. It's obviously the one I would have as my first guest. Me and Axel are now co-founders at Andon Labs, and Axel was actually the person that got me into coding and startups and all of this in the first place. So the obvious question is, like, I got into startups and got inspired by all of that through you, but what made you inspired to go into startups?
Yeah, I think maybe a few different things that like converged, or maybe they like followed one theme, but I like always liked taking initiative and like doing things myself. Like I think a few examples from when I was younger, like we had this cafe, me and my siblings, when we were like, I was like 8 years old maybe, and we were like baking stuff and just sitting outside of our house and selling things to our neighbors. It's just like a small thing. So I think from there it started like, enjoyed creating something that didn't exist. I think I really liked that process. And then I learned coding, which turns out to be a really good way for someone to create something that didn't exist before. And at the same time, I also became like this huge Apple fanboy, which, I'm...
Yes.
I am a fanboy, or maybe I was
15 years
more
later,
before.
You finally converted me.
Exactly. That's a huge milestone, actually. You got your iPhone this year after 10 years of persuasion. But now I'm like not as much of a fanboy anymore, but it's still, I'm glad still. But yeah, so I was I read Steve Jobs' biography when that came out. Also, inspired by Mark Zuckerberg for some reason. I mean, Facebook was really cool. This was like 2012. And he is cool. Facebook is like an amazing journey. So I just consumed all of this and at the same time coded. And from there, it started just the dream of running your own company and just doing this process like 100% of your time and being like totally committed to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what were your like parents like super entrepreneurial or something, or?
I guess so. Not that entrepreneurial. I think they always supported me. It's not like my mom has her own company, but it's like herself, and that's inspired me. I think just that you can start a company, like just having that knowledge that it's not that difficult. Maybe my dad, he always supported me, but also had like the same job for a long time. So I don't think it comes maybe that much from them directly. So yeah, maybe it's just the support I've gotten from them that helped.
And then you went to McKinsey and you saw a lot of like the other side, the big companies of the world.
Yes.
And yeah, like what do you think they can learn from each other? What is the like, you always in the startup circles, you always talk about like, oh no, big companies bad, it's boring, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, probably there's a lot of learnings that we could learn from that. What did you see that you now take with you when you start a company?
Yeah. It wasn't just to start. It was interesting. Like, it was also interesting that I actually went there because I always wanted to do a startup, but then I did like the opposite. But now I'm doing a startup, so I think it's okay. But I think it was cool to get the experience and what they can learn from each other. I'm very biased towards big companies learning from startups, how to operate, moving quickly. And I think that's needed in a lot of big companies, like take decisions quickly, test things. But maybe the obvious thing the other way, like what startups can learn from big companies, is that big companies always have a product market fit, because they have a business. So maybe that's one. No, but
What is the learning there?
yeah.
It's just like, be good, you retard.
Be good. Yes, exactly. Just make money. Just sell things and make
How
a
hard
profit.
can it be?
Exactly. Just do it. A lot of big companies do it, so you should be able to as well. So I think, like, obviously almost all big companies I've seen, they move quite slowly and they have a lot of processes. But I think there's this theory that that's just a feature. That's how you have to run a big company, because you have like K plus employees, and to have them move like to the same goal, that's like super difficult. It seems super difficult, at least. So I think maybe one thing that startups should learn as they scale is like operations. Not all companies, big companies, do this amazingly, but I think they all to some degree have the right systems in place to be able to just steer this massive entity towards one goal. There are probably a few companies that do this like super well, like way better than others. I guess Apple is going back there. They are like a really, really well-run company. So I think a lot of like these operations things is probably what I find impressive.
And if you're like, let's say I'm a middle manager at a super big company, but I have my small group within the large company and I want to run it as a startup. What is like the number one piece of advice that you think this person should change?
Oh, good question. I think don't be afraid of failure. I think a lot of people get stuck in the, career mindset when you're in a big company. Like you have your eyes on the like role above you, or like you wanna rise in the organization. I think just let go of that, which is of course difficult maybe. But don't be afraid of failure. I think try to get someone high up in the organization and get buy-in from them. Like have your support anchored as high up as you can in the company. Like try to build connections with executives. I think that also really helps, because you want to do something that's good for the company, hopefully. So you should be able to find someone that's aligned with you.
Right. And like in terms of like attracting talent, I think the startups are attracting a lot of like high agency ownership takers, risk takers and stuff like this. So 2 questions there. Do you think those types of people are good for big companies as well? Whether the companies are good for them is another question, but like would a big company want them if they could get them? And number 2, what should they do to attract these people? Like, for example, you didn't want to be at a big company, but I assume that a lot of people, or like a lot of good companies, would be very happy to have you. But what would they have to do to like attract you to that working environment?
Yeah, I think maybe first point, whether like, all companies want good talent. Maybe there is some point around companies not always wanting people that can like be disruptive or like create change really quickly, because a lot of people just think that, okay, things are going quite well for us. It might not sound like the best strategy, but some people just want to keep going in what they're doing right now. Like you're creating these profits every quarter and it's going well, and you don't actually need to innovate that much. I think that's true for a lot of big companies. Maybe sadly, because if everyone tried to innovate a lot, then I think the world would be much better. So maybe you don't need these like super high agency people everywhere. Maybe you just need people that are really good at churning out code or just being efficient operators in general. But for executive positions,
there might be like an incentive misalignment where, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like so the middle manager that makes a hire, if that person like quits early, then that's a very like annoying job for them. They have to like find someone new. But the upside of finding someone that is like high agency and does a lot, like really work hard and just innovates a lot at the company. Maybe the upside is like not enough to make that trade-off, basically.
Yeah, that definitely. Yeah. And in terms of what would attract me, I think what I really dislike about big companies is when you have this super, super siloed like departments. Like if I want to build like an application, for example, like I don't know, some internal tool, and I need data from two different departments, then I first need to like find the person who has the data, and then I need to ask for permission to use it in my production app, and then I need to ask for permission to get like a cloud environment, and then I need to ask for permission for everything. So not having that autonomy, that really doesn't suit me, and I think everyone that works in a startup. Just a company where you can bypass all these processes, and it's like you can reach out to anyone however you want, and it's just that the company assumes that you're not doing dumb things, basically. So like a high level of trust in the employees, which is difficult when you're like 10K employees. I don't know, if I knew I had like 10K employees under me, I would think there is a possibility that at least like a few of those every year would do something stupid if I didn't have any like rules. But maybe also, maybe not. Maybe if you have like, like if you're a technical person, then I think just have like small teams that are efficient and just try to hire really good people and have them be autonomous. I think that's probably possible, I'd say.
So you went from McKinsey and seeing all of these big companies to founding Andon Labs with me. What is Andon Labs? Please tell me, I don't know.
Yes, Andon Labs. We build evals and datasets to evaluate the dangerous capabilities of the frontier AI models, is the short pitch. And we do this to prepare the world for AGI, is our mission. And how do we prepare the world for AGI? Well, it's both by providing the frontier labs with information around how dangerous their models are in an agentic environment. But the other part of this is that we also want to let the public know, and this is not something we've maybe done that much until today. We will do this more this year for sure. Highlighting what's to come here. But what we want to do is create these evals that show clearly how good the models are at doing things that are relevant for the real world, so economically valuable tasks. And by informing the public around how close AI is to performing these tasks, they can have a smoother transition to this post-AGI world, where probably their task will not exist. So we want to do this smooth transition.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add? Because you also have some context around this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just like we see a lot of people, like the statistics for happiness levels when you retire is pretty good. Like people don't get depressed from not having work anymore. But that's like something that you can see a long way coming. Like now in 10 years I'm retiring. Now in 5 years I'm retiring. And you start to prepare mentally. You start to get new hobbies. You start to maybe shift the focus of where you like define your worth gradually over time. But if retirement just came like that, like a snap, then I think we would have bigger problems. And I think that's what's going to happen. So making that transition smoother is something that is certainly needed. And then you need data points in the real world to base your predictions on. So that's
100%.
That's the evals that we're doing. So coming to that that business idea or that line of thinking, we've had a lot of internal discussions about like what kind of business idea will stick. What is the world going to look like in a couple of years? And I think like the origins of this pod was basically we had all of these discussions, and I think they are super interesting, and maybe more people should know about them. So let's open up that discussion to the broader public here in this pod, because like the last couple of days or weeks we've discussed that a lot. Yeah, what is it that we've been discussing?
Yeah. So in short, like I guess we are thinking about what startups will work, or what business models will work, and what business models will not work as we get closer to AGI or ASI, or as models get smarter generally. And the frontier models that is.
Which ones do not work?
Ooh. Yes, the important part.
Yes.
Yeah, so our thinking, and I guess what you've said in your blog post as well, is that the verticals, if you're building a solution right now based on the best models, which is like, 3.5
What is a
Sonnet
vertical?
or
What is an AI
a vertical. Yes. So a vertical is some solution that you create for like a specific business area or some specific problem. So it's not something that anyone like at any company could use. It's something that like a specific, like a hospital or like a marketing department would use. That would be like
Right.
a vertical.
Right. So ChatGPT is a horizontal, but if you do like chat with the legal docs or something, then it's a vertical for the legal vertical, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And why don't we think the vertical products are like better than basically, or like TLDR is that we believe that the horizontal products are better, like in terms of like just performance, how good they are. And
Or
why do
the
we think that?
trajectory points to that. So yeah, it's just extrapolating. We are like not hyper bros, but we definitely think that the models will continue to become smarter by a lot. And we've seen like historically there are so many examples where these general solutions, which I guess we'll come to, the bitter lesson is that general solutions based on data will always outperform your solutions that you've built on your own heuristics and your own like human way of thinking about it. So we think now that the verticals are building really like good products that actually solve a problem today, but maybe they don't get like 100% there. And maybe they work with like only under specific circumstances. And most importantly, they will take advantage of the models as they get smarter. But at some point, the models will just be able to do the things that they programmed themselves. So you can just take the general frontier model and just use it for the purpose that the vertical is addressing.
Yeah, and I think like the bitter lesson that you mentioned, that's a blog post from 2019 by Richard Sutton that became really famous. And he gives all of these examples, like computer chess, for example. The computer chess started off with like rule-based systems where the AI researchers, they didn't believe that the current models were good enough to solve chess. So they hard-coded these like heuristics for how to play chess. And they knew something about chess, or like they maybe even took like grandmasters as they interviewed grandmasters and then took the heuristics from them. But then eventually stronger models just came along that were much simpler, and like Stockfish was like the more rule-based system, and then AlphaZero from Google DeepMind came, and like the code for AlphaZero is like a couple hundred lines or something. I don't know exactly, but it's like much shorter than the Stockfish code, which is like you have to have a lot of like if this, then that, blah, 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 and hard-coded rules. And that just like, the machine learning end-to-end based on compute just became so much better. And we've seen this in chess, Go, speech recognition, computer vision, like every part of AI research. And basically now we think this will translate over to AI applications based on these language models.
Yeah, maybe a good heuristic about this is like how many lines of code is your code base and how well do you perform on like a benchmark, and then you can create like a weighted score. But I think another interesting example is self-driving cars, because we're both interested in that space and you worked at Comma. And I think it's like super clear that like Tesla was like super into this rule-based route planning system, but now they shifted totally towards end-to-end machine learning, like Comma was doing or is doing.
Yeah, and I think it's like the self-driving car example is interesting because it shows you that eventually end-to-end will win, or like not rule like vertical, the more general approach will win. But you don't know when. It can take a lot of time. In self-driving cars, I think it's just now starting to become apparent that George Hotz and Comma was right all along. Still,
but also interesting. Yeah, just also interesting that no one was, or Waymo was able to release something, but like Tesla wasn't able to release something that relied on the heuristic way of planning where the car should go, because they didn't get the final 99.99 whatever digit.
But they probably will pretty soon, or I don't know, pretty soon, but like they will eventually. And the Waymo model of like mapping all the streets and having like, teleoperated people that can come in if something happens, that won't scale. Like the unit economics doesn't make sense. So back to the AI vertical apps. So we've seen this now in AI research, not in AI products. We've seen it in fields like that, and it's happening over and over again. Why do we make the comparison to AI products, which is something different? Yeah, where does that extrapolation come from?
Yeah, so I think the most clear common denominator here is that these verticals are right now building the solutions on their heuristics. So let's say that you're a developer and you want to solve a problem. So you maybe try with an autonomous agent, or you just see what the models can do. And then you see that, okay, if I build this into a workflow and I have like all these, different steps, like I break the problem down in different like a tree, and then I, like a map reduce kind of thing with GPT model, because you don't get the performance you want if you just plug it into your LLM and then get an answer. So you have to build this workflow, and then maybe have some LLM checks and everything, some quality control, and you get like a pretty okay score compared to what you got with just the model, just using the model directly. And yeah, like you get increased reliability, like in the bitter lesson, you get actually quite good accuracy, and it feels maybe fulfilling for the researcher if you do this. But
yeah, because that's a key part in the bitter lesson, that doing these heuristics is like short term very satisfying, because it is the way to make it work in the short term. Like it is the better solution in the short term, but it's just like eventually they will be surpassed by other methods. And so like seeing short-term gains now from like hard coding these things in your AI verticals, maybe a bit short-sighted, and it really echoes the bitter lesson. Because what happens after that?
Oh, yes, after that. But then you see that maybe you don't get everything correct. And like once you want to add like another, I don't know, let's say you're analyzing documents. If you want to like analyze another type of document or create another kind of document, they need to build out like new rules, and it doesn't really scale at all. And also maybe it doesn't give like the performance that you want. And like every time you have something that falls outside like the sort of hard coded path that you created, you won't get the results you want. And eventually, as we see the new models, they come like so often right now. And like what I've heard is like, first, maybe that if you just want to plug in a new model, then your workflow probably won't work like out of the box. Like it will probably take some tweaking, you have to fix your prompts and everything to make it work. But even once you make it work, you like the difference in performance from your workflow to the model actually decreases. And we think that this will just continue to decrease until the general model surpasses the workflow. So you won't actually need it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to the amount of lines of code heuristic for these AI verticals. As the models get better, there's fewer lines of code that are actually valuable to write, because the model will just like do more and more things out of the box. And what happens to startups then? If there's like only 10 lines of code to write to make your app, because the ground model is so good, is there any moat to be had then?
There are modes. I think there are modes. So you won't have a technical mode, that's for sure. And you probably need to build up some kind of modes before this happens. Because I think that some verticals, not all, I think a lot of verticals that focus is like just on the technical solution. Like let's say you were, like a text to speech company, or like a speech to text software company. Like why would someone not use, I don't know, OpenAI solution? It's like so easy, and they're the best. So that will be difficult. But if you have some kind of, high switching costs, maybe you entered like a vertical that has a lot of regulatory.
Just to paint the picture, what we're talking about now is that probably these heuristic-based AI verticals that are tailored to a specific vertical, they will be better in the short term, so they will win the market first. But then eventually, better models will come out, and these better models will require very few lines of code to make a product out of them. But they will be better because of the reasons that we talked about earlier. And then these verticals that won the market first find themselves in like competition with a better solution, but they already have the market. And then the question is, will they retain the market share that they got from the initial lead?
Yeah, exactly. And we should also say here maybe that, like as we said before, it is like totally fair to have a vertical right now, because you're solving like a real problem and you're creating
Yes.
like real value if you have customers. So it really does make sense. It's just that you have to probably think really carefully about, will I actually be able to protect my business once I get like technically surpassed by some general solutions, and probably be really willing like to just use the general solution almost out of the box. Maybe have some like UI, something that you create on top. You're like a really thin wrapper, but you provide value in like some other way that the general, like the labs won't be able to do.
But do you think it's possible to extract value when your layer, or like the thing that you're contributing with, is so thin? If it's only like marginally better UI, but everything else has just been changed out to have the latest models, and the reliability is like solved by the latest models. Can you extract value from that?
I think it will definitely be tough. Like it will be a tough sell for sure, and you will have a lot of competition. I think I think honestly it will be really tough. But if you are in some kind of market where you like need to do like really heavy sales, something to just get it, and like the contracts don't close themselves, so you like, if you can do that, then, but that's
Until
like
they do.
very bad
Until
answer.
they do.
Until they do. Oops. No, I think it will be difficult. You probably also need some kind of, like, one area I'm kind of bullish on here is that you provide it, you're able to provide the output in like this structured format. Maybe like it's even a vertical where rule-based is actually sort of the preferred method. Like, let's say, one area where I'm kind of bullish is like the medical field, like doing AI for, just in taking doctor's notes, for example. I think there you always need to produce it in like the exactly right output format, and needs to connect to the healthcare, like the journal. Like a general solution will probably be able to do that, because it will like be a computer use agent. It will be able to do it, but like it will be difficult, I think, to sell that solution, that general solution, to the hospitals and like make them use it, because there will be, bottlenecks. Just people won't just start using it. I think you need some kind of maybe company to tell them, hey, you can actually do this, and you can use our solution to do it, and we are like 100% sure you will get it in your journal system and in the right format all the time. And then maybe that field is also regulated, so you have some kind of, not everyone will just make the effort to sell to these hospitals.
Is this the advantage of such a vertical would be that they can do sales, or is it like trust? Like, why would a medical doctor, if the horizontal one can actually do the job as well, why would they end up picking the vertical one? Is it because the one sales representative of the horizontal never knocked on the door, or is it because they don't trust the horizontal solution?
I think there is some element of like not actually, just people not taking initiative and looking at what's out there. I would think that the labs can't sell to every vertical. They would have to sort of pull it in, and that pull effect will not necessarily go really quickly. It's just that's what I think, just because people aren't that, maybe aren't in the AI field and don't know what's possible. So they need maybe a salesperson to tell them this. Probably that.
Makes sense. So apart from the medical field, do you see any other types of moats that could be created by a vertical that initially wins some market, but then finds themselves in competition with a better horizontal solution?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it's probably down to, I think. Switching cost is one thing. Like, you have the solution already embedded in your company. I think another moat that a lot of people talk about today is that you want to build software. Like, you don't just want to build like an AI tool. You want to build something that can like pull in the company's data and like maybe replace a system that they have currently even. So like if you're using, if you're using SharePoint, everyone uses SharePoint, like all big companies use SharePoint.
Yeah.
If you can instead
we don't attend on labs.
We do not use SharePoint yet. Maybe we need to, for like, if you become like, 1,000 plus, then you just need to use SharePoint.
What is the causality here? Like, You become 1,000
exactly.
plus because you use SharePoint, or the other way around.
Yeah, can't be. We shouldn't take the risk then, maybe. No, but yeah, if you can build a software that like pulls in the data into your system, and you can do some like really neat AI stuff on top of it, then you have a clear lock-in, like you have the company's data on your platform. So then maybe a general model will, like, maybe your AI features will become obsolete once the general models become popular, and then they will instead interface with your software, but you still have your business, which is the software.
Yeah,
I think
this I really agree
one.
with. Like building software is
Yeah.
not dead. Okay, maybe building software, because like these AI agents will be pretty good at building software, but like the value of software will not go down. Like this will be very big. Like the problem is that the AI features should not be built into that software. So if you can get a lot of market share now with your AI features, then that's perfect. Like then you have a lot of users for your service, but then be warned that the AI features that you have might not be the selling point down the line when everyone has like an horizontal assistant that just can do everything. Then it might be that the software, the platform that you made, is the thing that's valuable. And I think that's likely.
Yeah. And I think this also like goes to a second point, like a second moat, which is the data moat, which will probably is very valuable and maybe will even just become more valuable because maybe they're like, if the models right now, it seems that they maybe won't generalize to like every field automatically. You probably need some training data. Maybe you don't need, like, you probably won't need as much data as you need today to make it good in a specific vertical. Like there will be more sample efficient, which we're seeing like with the one fine tuning and everything, but you will still need data, like high quality data in a vertical to get pretty good results. So I think there you can build like your typical data flywheel. You have your customers, you use their data in a responsible way, but you use their data, you create a better model, you create like a fine tune of a model, you get better performance. And if you keep this data to yourself, like the general labs will, like, it will take a while for them probably to collect this data if it's difficult and create a model that's better. So I think that's where you can still keep your technical moat.
Yeah. The counter argument to that is that you don't actually need to fine tune a model, changing the weights. It's enough to just put that data in the context window of the model, and probably context windows will grow even more. And if you have like a horizontal agent that can act in the like environment of the company, it could probably like find the data and then use it, and then you don't need to fine tune. So
Maybe.
that's one
I think still
possible
probably
path.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I think there is one possibility that like the agents will be like the valuable stuff, like they do stuff on your computer, like they do your work, and you maybe I don't know, maybe it won't be enough with just context, like in context learning. Maybe you need like, to get a reliable agent in your field, maybe you need to actually fine tune it, just like not that much. Like it will probably be quite cheap, but yeah. We'll see. I think it's maybe not clear, but I agree with you as well. That's a possibility.
Yeah. One thing you said earlier was on the switching cost part. Counter argument for you. Everyone already has a ChatGPT subscription, or not everyone, but like at this point, when we stand in this situation where you have the AI vertical and then you have the horizontal, that is like the better solution, will it overtake the vertical? Then you if you already have the ChatGPT subscription, like let's assume that the AI horizontal comes from like ChatGPT, it's like Operator Plus or something in 2 years. Is there any switching cost if you already have both solutions?
I think that there will be, and I think this is also like just human bottlenecks. Not, okay, sure, you have a subscription, but will you realize that you can actually replace your vertical solution with your horizontal one? I think the obvious answer is yes, people will eventually figure this out. So maybe it's like a very short-term moat. But if people are like used to your vertical, like a lot of effort in big companies goes into like training employees, in some software, maybe it will be like, yeah, I think we both think that the future agents will be like, you talk to them, it will be supernatural. It's like a coworker. So maybe the training part is like really, really simple. But I still think there is some, like, it's just fallacies at this point, but it's like you have some sunk cost thinking in your head that, okay, we have this vertical, works, like, let's keep using it, let's not change it. It's not that great maybe of a counter argument. I think it's just delaying the time it will take for the general solution to overtake the vertical. But I think it will still keep the verticals around a bit and still make them seem like pretty good investments.
Yeah, I agree. Like, adoption, to me, it's pretty clear that this will technically be possible pretty soon. But then adoption, both hindered by like regulation or people's minds, like you say, it will be interesting to see how much that will affect the landscape. Because like for now, when you have like a regulated field versus an unregulated field, none of them are moving that fast that like the significance of the regulation is that big, or like this is a bigger debate, but it's like it's not hundreds of orders of magnitude in difference, right? But like now you might have that. You might have like, if there wasn't regulation, then I could use my like 100,000 AI agents running in parallel and solving all the problems at once. Will like the regulations stand the pressure of having like one field that is not regulated going like X faster than the other field? And will people's, in the argument about people's mind, like how fast will people wake up when they see that all of their competitors that have adapted this just move like so much faster? For now, it's kind of, you can get away with not being adopter of this because the AI tools right now is not really that, they are useful, but it's not like, it's not a 10x improvement. But in the future, it might be like 100x improvement, and then you might die if you don't. Not literally.
Yeah.
But,
no,
yeah.
I you will literally die. No, but I agree. I think it will
Not
become.
everyone, but you specifically.
I think there is. I agree. I think there is like a pretty high chance that there will be like this, like existential moment for companies. Like there's, your competitor has like a 10x lower cost base because they're using this new agent, and then it will like, then I think that will be a very interesting point in time for these large corporations, like how they will handle this like mega shift in what they need to do to just to turn your costs down to your competitor level. That will be super interesting.
We touched a bit about like data before, that could be a moat. But what kind of data? What is the, what type of data would be valuable in this scenario?
Yeah, obviously data that you can't get anywhere else. Maybe that's like self-explanatory. I think I haven't maybe thought that much about like what specific types of data, more than like you need data that's definitely needed to get a high performance on your task. I think it will really depend, but like any data that companies have today that sort of builds their moat a bit, that will continue to be valuable. What do you think?
I think most data actually is not a moat here, because I think that the agents will have autonomy, so they can find the data themselves. You don't need to feed them all of this data. They can navigate to the place where they can find the data. The only data that will be truly a moat is if there's something that is like locked up by regulation, or like, I don't know, maybe you collect the data set at some like very rare event. Maybe there was like you're a biologist or something, and there's like a full moon, or like there's a lunar eclipse every 20 years, and you can only collect this data during this very specific lunar eclipse or something like that. And then you're the only person with the data. In that scenario, it doesn't help that you have like 100,000 AI agents that can just collect or like navigate a bunch of different websites to find data. You are the only one with the data. Maybe it's hard to see how such a data set would be like super required to do the task that you're trying to do. But I think you can find scenarios like that. But I think they will be rare, very rare. But in the very niche scenarios, that data will be extremely valuable, because it will be like the only thing that stands between you and the AI vertical, AI horizontal taking over. And in that case, I think like the value of your company will be equal to the value of that data. You could probably sell the you will probably get a lot of acquisition offers to sell the data.
Yeah, I wonder how, like, if you can't continually like get new data, like how sustainable of a business is it just to sell, like, is it like you sell one product and never create something new? Like you probably need some data collection, I think, to stay relevant in the long term.
Yeah. So this is quite an extreme view outside AI circles, at least. I think it's starting to become semi normal to think these things in the AI circles. When did you come around to becoming a believer in this extreme world?
Maybe I was maybe late to the party, so to say, I think, in the AI world. And I read Leopold Aschenbrenner's what's it called? Situational awareness. Yeah, I think that sort of made me understand. I think especially the line about like having your digital coworker, that really, it made me really understand that, okay, shit, this is probably going to happen, and like the scaling laws and everything. And yeah, I don't think I've seen anything now that sort of counteracts that, like counter arguments to why that shouldn't happen. So that was probably the starting point.
Yep. So given your new worldview, is this something that has made you like more pessimistic or more optimistic, or what does Axel Backlund feel when he has these discussions about the world in a couple of years?
I feel okay. So maybe taking aside the risks, which makes me, a bit cautious, because we haven't solved AI safety, definitely not. And like, I think there are some signs that we will, like the current trajectories, like we maybe will figure it out, but that's maybe not strong enough to feel like confident for sure. But just the general fact that I think we'll get AGI is like, I'm optimistic, and I feel pretty excited about it. I think mostly for like the research part, accelerating research, like the medical fields, like coming up with new ways to prevent diseases and medicines. That makes me excited for sure. I think also in general, like I think research is like one of the fields that will first be affected, because it will be so much easier to apply there. Like we see with O3, like all the benchmarks were just maybe only relevant really for researchers, I would say. Like it's not clear how it will translate to, I don't know, a real like a business task. But for everyone that's working in businesses, and where AI probably at some point will replace a lot of people, I think it will be like a tough transition, which I mean it will go well, but it will be a bit tough. And I'm like also not that excited for the point where it will become political, which it will be very soon, I think. So that's maybe not great, but I think I'm overall excited for letting people like do what they really want to do. Some people do really want to do what they're doing at their jobs, which maybe that's hopefully they can keep doing something that they really like. But I think for a lot of people, they maybe have something else in their lives that like makes them really excited. Yeah, I just want people to do what they find really interesting. And I think a lot of these things aren't necessarily economically useful. So I think that's good. We'll outsource the economically useful part today.
So that's what you think will happen. But what do you feel? What is when you think about these things, like is your worldview more pessimistic or less pessimistic? Like do you have or like maybe you don't feel anything about it. It's just like that's the way it is.
No, I feel optimistic. That I feel happy. Or happy maybe is the wrong word, but I feel optimistic. I don't feel like, I don't know, existential dread or pessimism about the world. I feel optimistic.
Yeah. Does it make you more or less excited to run a startup?
More. It's well, what did they say? It's like always best time to do it is when there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. Things are like being shaken up. I think that's like the perfect time to be a startup. You can move fast. You can find whatever is like, the what can provide new value in the new world.
Right. So let's assume now that it's the year 2035. It went well. We're living in the AI utopia, and there was no like alignment issues with AI. It didn't paperclip everyone, and now we're living in the AI utopia. Looking back from this point, what is the thing that you're most proud of, given the trajectory of AI?
So if everything worked well with alignment, definitely 100% the thing I would be most proud of is that we played a part in ensuring that AI was aligned and providing signal to whether or not it was aligned. So we want to build like the best evals in the world, and we want to make sure that this like really measure the like alignment and dangerous capabilities of the AI. And if there was a need for a pause, we would be the ones providing a really good and clear signal for it. So I think providing that, I think I would be really proud of. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I think the second point that we talked about, also preparing the world for AGI, I think that's also maybe it is super important, and yeah, probably as important even, like making it clear for people that this change will happen, making them prepare for it, think about what they should do, and yeah, make it like an early retirement and not like my job was taken away.
Yeah. What did you recently realize about yourself?
I think it is a tough question. I think one boring thing maybe that I realized about myself, maybe not that deep, is that I became very conscious over my morning temper, my morning mood. So I have terrible moods in the morning, and I need like 2 hours to sort of get back to normal. I never realized that. I was probably always like really annoying in the mornings, and I didn't realize I had to like build for myself. And that maybe that's like one thing I realized. Maybe that's late for me to realize it. I don't know.
To be fair, we lived in the same room for 2 months in SF in AGI house, and I never realized. Maybe I have the same problem, and we just like matched each other's energy or something.
We didn't. Maybe I don't know if you noticed, but we didn't. I tried to not to have very little surface area in the mornings, like together. So it helps for me to just go outside and run, and not do that much. But it's like really small things. Like if I don't get to turn on the lights myself in the morning, then I'm like.
On the topic of running, what are the things that you want to do more when AGI hits and you don't have a job anymore?
Hopefully we will have a job because we have done all this thinking. But if everything is automated, like even our jobs, then honestly I would just have like I would have like a cafe or like a wine bar, sit there and give out free drinks to people and just talk with people. And I would pick up a lot of different hobbies, do more skiing. I would maybe even like do some serious like exercising, like like try to do well in races. Maybe have time for that. But yeah, just doing stuff that's like not the smartest thing to do economically.
I see.
Also, maybe there will be. I think the more like, yeah, the more probable thing that will happen is that there are other opportunities to like do startups, and like maybe if you do hardware startup, then you can definitely still do it as a business, and you need like maybe a human is needed to do it, or you can play a part as well, or at least.
Let's wait for the robots.
Yeah, we'll see. But maybe like that field just gets 10x in output, and it will be super cool to do something there. So I think that's the more likely thing to happen. But if everything is automated, then I'll just give away
wine bar,
free wine at a wine bar.
Nice. I certainly hope you get to have your wine bar at some point.
Yes.
Thanks so much for chatting with me today, and I'll see you at work in like half an hour.
Yes, it was great chatting. Thanks for having me.